Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahadhiryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Verse number 6, talking about Shama and Dhamma. Dhamma we have discussed. We're going to see what Shama is, and then we'll look at that. Now, Sadaiva Vasana Tyagaha Shamo Yamiti Shabditaha. Sadaiva Vasana Tyagaha Shamo Yamiti Shabditaha. Nigraho Bhakya-vrittīnām Dhamma ityabhidhīyate. Nigraho Bhakya-vrittīnām Dhamma ityabhidhīyate. We saw this last time. What is Dhamma? Dhamma is a word that talks about the management of the external organs of action. How to manage the organs of action from being in their unbridled state. Unbridled state is like that of an animal or a baby that hasn't learned as yet to manage its limbs and its way of being. So generally, babies, if they feel like crying, they will cry. They will not say, "Oh, the mother is busy. She's doing puja. I have to wait till she comes out." No such thing. There is an impetus, and it will use its lungs because it needs the attention now. Similarly, a toddler will have a tantrum, not at home, but in the at the entrance of a toy shop or near the checkout counter of the toy shop, because whatever it wanted, the parents did not buy. And so it will have a tantrum. There is no Dhamma, and Dhamma at age 2 and 3 is not expected. Slowly the parents train. This is not appropriate. This is appropriate. So just because it's a tendency doesn't mean it's in keeping with one's nature that one wants to be. So even as an adult, if there is some kind of a meltdown or a tantrum that one has, one doesn't like to have the tantrum. One doesn't want to have that tantrum. One doesn't want to lose it in public and other places. One doesn't want to do that. So therefore, even though the organs of actions are there and they are useful. The legs help me walk from place to place. The hands help me do this and that, and whatever I want to do in life. The speech, of course, is so invaluable. I have this with speech, and then so many things are just right. This is how they are. But then what happens is that there is a kind of an impetus to be able to keep the organs of action with oneself. Not really throw them everywhere. Throw it everywhere, no. Keep the organs of action with yourself. There should be freedom in how I deploy my hands, legs, etc. So there is an impulsive nature which seems natural as a child, as a baby. And then there is one's nature, even we are not even talking of Satchidananda here, one's nature in the empirical world that one aspires to live up. So that, and what is that about? It's all about impulse management. And the extent to which one can manage the impulses is the extent to which the person is able to have freedom in with relation to their raga and dveshas. The strong preferences and prejudices are in the form of are first encountered in the form of impulses. Sometimes we don't even know because those desires are very latent. They are not obvious. There's a latent desire, and when the hand has gone to grab something, then you say, "Oh, this thing wants to come home with me, and it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to somebody else." And already the hand has gone. Long fingers. One is a finger smith, and the hand has gone and then taken it to be mine. And now it's already gone in the bag. You see this a lot with dementia patients. And it's not it's not kleptomania. It's not that suddenly they have become thieves. These impulses were there. But what happens with dementia is that because of the plaques building up in the brain or any other, whatever, this frontotemporal dementia, all these varieties, there is that impulse management filter is inhibited. That's why whatever they want, they take. They become like children. Children also, they don't say, "Okay, this toy belongs to that boy. It's not mine." That feeling is not there. I want it. Give me. And so, as one grows, if this impulse management is not there, then it's a cause for misery, strife, conflict. And then we like to think of ourselves as a civilized people. And so this impulse management is there, part of every child's upbringing. Every mother and every father will say, "This is not the way to behave. Come on, sit up straight. You're not at home. You're visiting somebody. You can't convert their couch into your bed. Sit up straight. Don't do this." All these things the parents tell because there is some kind of a standard to uphold. And also, the parents have their own personal reasons because they don't want to be credited, if that can be called a credit, credited with the dubious distinction of having given birth to animals. And you hear this in stories sometimes that the queen gave birth to puppies. So no mother wants to say that I've given birth to some wild dogs, and they're not having any home training, no manners, nothing. So therefore, this impulse management is part and parcel of everybody's upbringing. And then it is also part and parcel of the societal expectations. Society expects that by the time you reach a certain age, in adulthood, etc., you know how to conduct yourself. And what is this yourself? Yourself means how you manage the organs of actions. That is who yourself is. Here we are not talking of self as Sat, Chit, Ananda, consciousness, all that don't bring in here. Yourself means the ahankara, the mind, and all these things. How do you manage? First, how do you manage your organs of action? And of course, for the mismanagement of organs of action, there are consequences, primarily legal consequences. You go and hit somebody, and then you will be taken away, arrested on the spot. You can't do that. There are laws. You go and defile a place with graffiti and other things, you are arrested. There are laws against all these things. And then there are also social consequences. Let's say one is not so gone as to cause violence, but then one is slightly off, does strange things. There was one person who used to come to see Puja Swamiji, and then as soon as he entered Puja Swamiji's meeting room, he would not do namaskar. He would not sit down. What he would do is he would immediately start arranging everything on Swamiji, rearrange, I should say, everything on Swamiji's table and the bookshelf and everything else that was there. Some kind of a OCD, perhaps something. But then, that also has consequences if it is not managed, meaning you will not have friends. You will not have anybody to relate to. They will all think you're a weirdo. So, therefore, in the society, this impulse management is very much expected and cultivated. In Vedanta as well, the impulse management has a very, very important place. Because for the one who does not have a say over the ways of their organs of action, this knowledge will not speak. Why? Because, as I said, this impulse management is connected to the management of desires. So when there is no impulse management, there is no desire management. And when there is no desire management, the desires run you amok. They derail you from your quest. And so therefore, in Vedanta, this impulse management has a very, very important place. And it's the first line of defense or the first line of interrupting desires over which one may have over which one may have no idea, about which one may have no idea that it is even there. Some deep rooted desires arising from the unconscious mind. And so this is what is called dhamma. Nigraha should not be translated as control. Nigraha, management, bahya vrittina, of the vrittis, of the activities, of the organs of action. And once again, organs of action, hands, legs, speech, organs of elimination and reproduction. These I learned to manage. Now you may ask me, what is the problem? You yourself said the civilization, the society, and the upbringing already takes care of this. Why does Vedanta talk about this? If I already have Dhamma, because I have learnt it in society, then why is this being discussed as a big deal? Why are you spending 2 classes on this? Well, there is a reason for it. Because, like everything else, one learns to have a kind of a veneer, a patina, so to speak, of a patina, a persona that is very well put together. Where? In public. But among the people that one lives with, when one is with the people that one lives with, and people who are familiar to oneself, those kinds of societal rules and all do not appear to apply at home. There is a kind of a double speak, a double act rather. So in public, I know how to conduct myself. I nod my head. I don't, push somebody out of the way and rush to whenever they are taking a photograph. Shove somebody aside and go rush and stand there. I don't compete, at least when other people are looking. uh, I don't compete unfairly, because looks and appearances are very, very important. As long as there is self-ignorance, looks are very important. And how no, not how I conduct myself, but how other people think of me is very, very important. Because the whole world, as long as it's self-ignorant, suffers from what will other people think it is. Okay, that is the disease of samsara. What will other people think? That itself becomes a syndrome. And so that pressure of public opinion and the fear of public invalidation makes me toe the line in terms of managing my emotions, my physical reactions, and the reactivity. But then this does not. There seems to be a certain discrepancy in the public persona and the persona when one is there at home or among the close circle of people, where one tends to take things for granted, where one tends to just not worry about all these rules, etc. And then one says, "Oh, I'm after all human. I just don't, these things do not apply. I'm after all human." Human means what? And but this is the feeling. I have to let go somewhere. Let go doesn't mean you just do whatever you feel like, especially if there are other people around, whoever it is. So these double standards that we have, that when one is by oneself or when one is amongst the people one knows, there is a different set of rules operating. And then when one is in public, there's a public persona that is very carefully groomed, pruned, and cultivated. And then that's why these days it's very difficult if one doesn't have this integrity. It's very difficult to have this public persona and then be something else in private. It's very difficult because there are cameras everywhere. And many a great politician is brought down by these whatever these accusations in private. The children complain, and the spouse complains, domestic abuse, violence. And then in public, what is the person doing? The person is on the committee of world peace, out in some kind of a committee on world peace, and has cultivated a very nice person. Unfortunately, even spiritual leaders that have great, big followings are not exempt from this. In the public, the person goes with a blessing hand. Tathastu, yes, 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 wonderful. Oh, I don't need anything. Everything is all right. Nothing is needed. I'm just here for you. I don't want anything at all. And then all the allegations come out: money laundering, philandering, extortion, and worse. All kinds of things come out because the persona doesn't match with their real behavior, with how they really are. What they really think is different, and how they behave is different from how they have cultivated this persona to make people think they behave. And so Dhamma means what? Dhamma means that this kind of a discrepancy is not there. That is why in Vedanta we have to revisit Dhamma, even though we have understood Dhamma as part of our upbringing. The fine tuning of this Dhamma, the Dhamma with finesse, that the ancient sages want us to cultivate, is to remove this public-private divide. Because otherwise, there is a split. How I am in public is different from how I am, how I behave when I am by myself. So there is that split. And that split means it's a duality. How will the knowledge of non-duality come in a heart that is so conscious of the split? And in fact, not just conscious, it's reproducing this split every day in every way. How will such a person get that? We get this knowledge. So Dhamma becomes the first order of business in the study of Vedanta. Then, of course, then of course the question arises. At home, I'm just, lounging around, in complete abandon. I don't wear the same clothes that I wear when I'm outside. So that means I should be just like a slob outside too. We are not talking of that. We are talking about the behavior. We are talking about a kind of a consistency. Whether people are looking or not, I have a certain set of values which guide my organs of action. Dhamma is always informed by a set of values to which I am responding, which I am upholding. And those values are consistent, whether there is one person or no person or 1,000 people, or whether one is surrounded by 1,000 people. It's exactly the same. There's not much of a difference between the public and the so-called public and private soul. There is not that much of a difference. That is the. Now, next question. What are these values? What are these values that inform Dhamma? What are the attitudes that inform Dhamma? What are the beliefs and what is the mental makeup that informs how I use my organs of action? That is called Shama. So you see, just like Viveka and Vairagya are twins, Shama and Dhamma are also twins. Let us look at the text again. That's why they are discussed together. That is exactly why they are discussed together. So here Nigrahah Bhakya-vrittinam Damaha iti abhidhiyate. Now we see, and we can respect the author for wanting to discuss Shama earlier, before Dhamma. Why? Because the attitudes and values that back the behavior is Shama. So without the attitudes and values, how can I have Dhamma? So should we discuss Shama first? That's what the author says. Yes, we should discuss Shama first. But it makes sense, especially, it's easier to understand when we discuss Dhamma first and then look at how it is connected to Shama. So what is this Shama according to the author? Sada eva, always. Vasana tyagaha, the giving up of desires and impressions always, even as they arise in the mind. Shamaha, ayam iti shabditaha. This is what Shama is called. So what is this Shama? The Shama is always giving up the desires that arise in the mind. And this is something which seems like a tall order. So many desires arise in the mind. And then if I'm giving up all of them, may as well wear some orange and go off to the Himalayas. This is the feeling that one has. What's the point of being in this world? The world becomes so boring. I have all these desires. I'm not allowed to pursue anything. That is why the word desire here has a unique, a unique word is used to to understand desire. It's not kama, because kama is the word for desire that we normally have is kama. Kama is understood as a valid purusharth, something that people can pursue. Kama. Kama means desire. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. These are seen as fourfold pursuits. So here the word is not. Sadaiva kama tyagaha, no. Sadaiva vasana tyaga. What is the word vasana? Vasana means actually a smell. It's very subtle. Yeah, a smell. It's very subtle. You say, oh, this is maddening me. I have smelled this somewhere. Kind of a whiff comes. What is the name of this flower? What is the name of this dish? I think it's potatoes cooking. Something like that. You have a kind of a smell. And so the word smell is also used figuratively for an impression, a subtle impression, which is the raw material for kama. Kama in its fetal state is called vasana, not yet given birth. It is still in a gestational state. That is called vasana, like even a little whiff somewhere. I told you once, morning walks in India are very entertaining because as you walk, you can smell people's breakfasts. Whatever they are cooking, you can smell. And you can get all these rich and wonderful aromas. And so going through the streets. And so like this is like but the aroma doesn't really, just like the aroma doesn't fill up your stomach. Similarly, the vasana is not a full-fledged kama. It's an impression which has the ability to cook up the kama. What do you mean by impression which cooks up the kama? As I said, it's the raw material for kama. And where is this impression? The impression is latent. Latent means what? It is under a tent, okay? Yeah. It's laying under a tent. That's why it's called latent. What is the tent? The tent is called the unconscious mind. Ah, unconscious mind is the nursery of various vasana, various embryos of what is to be full-fledged karmas lying in a gestational state, yet to be formed, yet to be born, but still alive. Yes, still alive, yet to be born. And so, if it is a karma, you can have a say. You can say, you know what? I don't think I'm going to follow this particular desire because the last time I went down this road, it was not a very happy. It was not a very happy experience. So this time I'm not going to go. You can even animals have this understanding. The animal gets up where it's on the counter, kitchen counter. It's not allowed there. The cat gets up on the kitchen counter. So what do? You have a spray bottle. You spray a little bit. The dog gets up on the couch. You spray water. And of course, even though it doesn't have a big memory, but still something terrible happens each time I get up on this nice, comfortable sofa to sit down. Okay, so I should not do this. And so this is the kind, even the animals have this. And so but the thing is that with vasanas, it is very difficult to have that connection because the vasana is not a full-fledged desire. And since the vasana is laying flat under the tent of the unconscious. That's why it is laid tent, okay? And it is lying under this unconscious mind. That means it doesn't have expression. Just like the baby in the mother's womb, it may have feelings, but it cannot express them. It doesn't have a mode of expression. The brain is yet to develop, the manner of expression is yet to develop. So too the vasana is an embryonic form of desire that is arising from the unconscious mind. So what is the unconscious mind? A storehouse of wrong impressions from childhood. A storehouse of things that should have happened but did not happen. Complaints. A storehouse of insecurity. A warehouse of feeling alienated, dissociated, unloved. A warehouse of misunderstanding. So why did you change the word storehouse to warehouse? Because you don't know where exactly it is. That's why. It is. Where is this house of impressions? One doesn't know. That's why it is warehouse. And so here, this is the problem. There is this understanding, or rather a misunderstanding, which has piled up, piled up, piled up. Why? Because it is not resolved. Why is it not resolved? Because I don't know it is there. How can I resolve something that I don't know it is there? I don't know it is there. It is hidden from the child as it's growing up. Because if the child were to reckon with its childhood as a child, then it would not even grow up. It would not even have the impetus to grow up. So therefore, this tent that houses the unconscious is a blessing from Ishvara. This unconscious mind is Ishvara Srishti. This is the avarna on the individual level. We are not talking of the collective avarna, which is a Maya Shakti, which everybody has until they encounter self-knowledge. That is being away from one's own nature, not knowing that one is Ishvara. That is the avarna that one is trying to remove, that we are trying to remove through these teachings, etc. But this is the individual avarna. Those pains, those unfulfilled things, frozen needs, unfulfilled and unfulfillable. What are you going to do how are you going to deal with the loss of the balloon the sibling took away at age 3? Not possible. At age 93, even if somebody presented the person with 93 balloons, that is a frozen need. That balloon only I want back. That is what it is. That is the unconscious mind. And so the unconscious mind is full of misapprehensions. Wrong impressions are also there. Wrong memories are there. Unlike how it might have really happened. Mother wanted to take a bath and said, I'll be back in 10 minutes, sit here, play with your colors or play with this toy. The 18-month-old doesn't understand the meaning bath, doesn't understand 10 minutes. It has no concept of time. And then how did the impression come? Mother doesn't love me, she has gone. Separation anxiety. And that anxiety is the vasana here. But that anxiety, because of the way the child has grown up, with everything just hidden, because the child has to grow up. It has to go to school, it has to experience things, it has to learn. And so Bhagavan does not permit the vasanas to be understood until adulthood. It's like a court order that is under seal. So there is sometimes, we find in India and other places. So the verdict has been reached. The court has already given the verdict, but it is under seal for so many months. Why? Because they fear that there will be a riot. So until they shore up all the police presence and everything, and then on a particular day, usually Friday evening, when people are people are planning which movie to see and which relative to visit, that is when the verdict is released, so that they don't really fight over it. But until it is released, it is under sea. Similarly, here, Bhagavan has put a sea on the unconscious mind, because it is not fair to the child to ask it to process something without it having the ability to process. It doesn't have the antakarana to process that. It doesn't have the brain, it doesn't have the mind, it is not none of the processing tools are developed. They are yet to develop. So the unconscious usually comes out in a kind of a trusting relationship or a friendship in adulthood. Why should it be a trusting relationship? Because that's how it works. You finally feel safe enough to feel unsafe. That is what it is. You're feeling safe enough to feel unsafe. That is when therapy also works. That is when the unconscious comes out. And generally, sometimes if one has bypassed any kind of a relationship and the unconscious mind hasn't come out, come to Vedanta. Definitely, it is a safe place, safe enough to feel unsafe, and the unconscious will come pouring out. Guarantee. And then that's why people come and tell me, Swamiji, I was very fine until I started to study with you. I was fine. And now all some bad feelings, some guilt, some pain, some hurt is coming. Until I studied Vedanta, I was okay. Not okay, actually. Which was just that you did not know what there was to attend to. Now you know. That's all it is. So the unconscious mind is actually a gift, because it is the presence of Ishvara that has protected this child from a painful growth. Then in adulthood, one becomes cognizant of one's triggers. That trigger is vasana. Suddenly I behave badly. Why? Because that is the lack of dhamma. Why? Because I felt scared. Since I felt scared, I thought, let me hit this person, even though the person is showing no sign of aggression and no plan of aggression towards me. Why did I get scared? Unconscious. Ingredients of the fear are there. And first they connect to the hand. They don't connect to the mind. And they say, what should I say? It's a kind of a slapstick kind of a reaction. Knee-jerk reaction. That's why the person who behaves like this is called a jerk. Okay? Yeah, the one who has a knee-jerk reaction, many of them in a row, is called a jerk in America. And this is how these Dhamma and Shama are connected. And in Shama, the invitation is to be able to kindly look upon these vasanas and make peace with them. And if you go searching with a flashlight in the warehouse of vasanas, you will not find them. Just like you can't go searching for cockroaches, you'll never find them. But you leave the house for a week and then come back, they're all there. They're all surprised that you're back so soon. And they all, as soon as the light is shined, they hide away. Similarly, The vasanas are all hiding, lurking. You only experience them and you only come to know of them when you are confronted with these triggers. Sudden anger, you want to throttle the person in front of you, or you want to take a whole stack of plates and break them, or you want to do something mean to the other person because that other person you think has done something mean to you, even though they did not mean it. Okay. And so the presence of the vasana is always coming in the form of impulses, is understood in the form of impulses. So therefore, the first level of the management is impulse management. But the impulse management soon can deteriorate into an empty exercise of impulse control because it is not accompanied by the next thing, shama. So the impulse management is the first order of business. So I don't hurt myself or others. And the next order of business is to query these impulses and to make peace with them, to come to a place of acceptance, come to a place of shanti, come to a place of yes, this is a difficult issue. Yes, this is a core issue. Yes, this is an important trigger. And yes, I am a work in progress. My mind is a work in progress. That is a level of acceptance. And how one deals with the triggers is called shama. And dealing with the triggers, calls for a few steps. First step is to distinguish oneself from the triggers. I am not the trigger. I seem to have this trigger, and right now I am under its spell. I appear to be under its spell. Even though I am not this trigger, the trigger is other than I. Trigger is other than. But right now I seem to be in a hopeless spell. This is already accepted. Then I take recourse to prayer. Please remove this trigger before I hurt myself or somebody else. This is not an elaborate prayer, going to the altar and bowing down. There is no time for all that. This is just a silent prayer. Silent, spontaneous prayer. I'm seeking help. Please help. I feel anger coming up right now. Please help. Please help me get some space for this. And then one does whatever it takes to get space from that trigger, which is now since Dama, since the hand which was going to cuff the other person has been cuffed itself, and then it is slowly with you. You have handcuffed this hand, and slowly it has been asked to release the fist and just be there. Then the trigger, when you do this, then the trigger is isolated. You are able to then deal with the trigger because you have not acted on the trigger. And when that trigger is isolated, then the sorrow comes up, the fear comes up, the pain comes up, the anger comes up, and you are able to delineate this particular emotion. Even if you're not able to delineate, it's okay. You just say, I'm feeling not at ease. I'm feeling a sense of dis-ease. That is what you say. I'm feeling a sense of dis-ease. That itself is kind of a enlightenment, a mini enlightenment, if you will, because one is doing the first ultrasound of the first trimester of these gestational vasanas. Oh, That's what, and the parents to be, even though they are very, very excited about this ultrasound, only the technician and the doctor can make out. They'll say that here is a foot, here is the face. Otherwise, what the parents to be can just see some blurry images. They have to kind of enjoy. Oh, this is the baby. Oh, I can't see anything. I can't make out anything. That's exactly how the vasana is. You know there is something there. You know something is pulsing there. It seems to have a heartbeat. It seems to be alive. But I can't make out anything. It is there. That itself is a mini enlightenment, because this vasana, which is very difficult to objectify, has been objectified. So, so then looking at this vasana is like allowing yourself to have an ultrasound and make this come out to the extent that it can be recognized. And even if you can't see it properly, the only thing to say about this ultrasound photo when it comes out is how cute. Even though if you don't mean it, it's okay. You can say, yes, this is an angry baby yet to be born. The emotion of anger is embodied in this helpless little infant who felt neglected, who felt unloved, who felt cold, who felt hungry without food. And given this, it's a particularly valid response. It's a perfectly valid response. But anger comes when one is deprived of the bare necessities. Anger definitely comes. When one is deprived of love, anger comes. Why was one deprived of love? Because the sibling was born. Simple. Sibling was born. It's not that the parents did not love this child. But this child was 3 and this child could take care of itself. And here was another helpless baby in the mother's lap. That itself was unbearable. And so, from the standpoint of the child, it is absolutely valid that the mother's lap is now shared. It's a shared lap. Before I had all this whole lap to myself. Now this idiot is occupying this lap. And then I'm supposed to be kind. Oh, this is your younger brother. No, this is your baby sister. Be nice. I don't want to be nice. I can't stand the sight of this being. I don't want to be nice. This being is coming in the way of me and my parents. Why did it have to even come to the world? Take it back. Leave it somewhere. This is the feeling. This is the child's feeling. And from the standpoint of the child, this is valid. This is totally, totally valid. All vasanas are valid at the time that they were born or they were formed. At the time, at that tatkala, in that time, every vasana is valid. So therefore, the child feels unloved. Not that it is not unloved. It's an impression that may correspond with the reality, that may not correspond with the reality. And already that feeling of unloved is there. Then that, so when one is feeling unloved, what does one do? One looks for more clues to, to make this belief strong. So the child sees that whenever I cry, the mother says, come on, you know better. And whenever that sibling cries, the mother just gives whatever it wants. So the memory that the same thing was done to me when I was that child's age is not there. The understanding is not there. So therefore, now the child is convinced more and more. Mother favors that one more, not me. That one is, because that child must be cuter. That child must be more wanted. I am not wanted. This is how, because of Atma Ajnanam, these wrong impressions called vasanas have a stranglehold in the unconscious mind. And if they are not attended to, they come out and dance in public and make havoc of one's goals, one's ambitions, and even the exigencies of everyday living. So vasana tyagaha means two things here. Tyaga means giving up, but you can't really giving up. You can't be giving up unless you clean it up first. You have to clean it up and then give it up. Why can't I just give it up like that? You can't, because it is holding on to you. I can't even say you are holding on to it. It is holding on to you. Therefore, you have to clean it up and look at it as a separate from you. And at that time, the vasana had gave rise to some coping mechanisms. You don't love me, mom, dad? I don't care. I'm going to be strong. I'm going to go about life. And the parents think, oh, this is such a low maintenance child. It's not low maintenance at all. It is a pretense. It's a veneer. It's a presentation of self. How low maintenance it is, the spouse will know later on. Okay, so the parents won't know in that time. It's actually not low maintenance, but it pretends to be not needing anything because I'm not getting anything anyway. So I'm going to be strong. I'm not going to need anything, so that I don't have to beg you anything, because what's the use? You don't give me anything at all. This is the child's feeling. And it's again a valid coping mechanism. So first you have the vasana of being unloved. On top of that is the feeling, I'm going to cope without this. I'm going to be strong. I'm going to grow up. Don't worry. No thanks to you. Despite you, I will be successful. Despite you, I will grow up. Why? Even there are people, stories say people are raised by wolves, like the brothers who founded the city of Rome were raised by wolves. So if they manage fine, so I will also manage fine. I'll fend for myself. I will defend myself by fending for myself. This is the vasana. On top of the vasana, the coping mechanism itself is a form of a vasana. Then in adulthood, you do not need that coping mechanism anymore. You know you are loved. At least a few friends you have. I hope so. Otherwise, so at least a few friends are there. Some loved ones are there. If nobody loves you, at least the pet dog wags its tail no matter what. Some you know this. You know that people love. So then that coping mechanism of feeling unloved and not wanting to need anybody now becomes a moping mechanism. It's no longer a coping mechanism. It becomes a mechanism that inhibits your way of being in the world. It inhibits the way you reach out to people or not. And then there are all these psychological terms for it. What is it called? An avoidance personality. Avoidant personality. Meaning one doesn't want to doesn't want to be disappointed. So one avoids being vulnerable. One avoids loving anybody fully. Very difficult for such a person to get married and to raise a family, etc., because they keep avoiding all the loved ones. So these are actually called, quote unquote, attachment behaviors. Avoidant personality is one of the 4 types of attachments. And so there is I don't remember all the types, but then there is that the most ideal one is a secure attachment. Attachment here, not attachment, detachment that people think in Vedanta. No, this is what is that? This is a secure attachment, means the way in which one relates ideally to the parents. The child feels secure. The child feels, okay, I matter. Yes, The parents do goof up and mess up sometimes, but generally they are okay. And so such a person, when they grow up, they don't have a problem entering into friendships, relationships, etc. Generally speaking. Of course, some problems will be there for everybody, but generally speaking. Whereas then there is another attachment type, insecure attachment. Insecure attachment means the child is the child's coping mechanism is to cling, whereas the first child of the example avoided them personally fully. I'm going to raise myself. I'm not going to depend on them for love. I don't need love. I can grow up without feeling connected. I can do that. So the second child here, another kind of an example is the more the parent is unavailable, the clingier the child becomes. This is called insecure attachment. Then even in the avoidant types, there are two. I forgot the distinction, but it really doesn't matter. And so that is this becomes later on the ways in which one conducts oneself in the world. For Vedanta, this becomes very, very, very important, because without a certain relative security, the absolute knowledge that one is the only secure thing in the whole world will not come. So there has to be a certain relative security, which calls for the management of these emotions. The emotions that do not have to do with the adulthood and with the present circumstances. Even though one says, I'm angry because you exist, it's not the existence of the other person that's making one angry. The anger comes from early childhood. Anger comes from that. And the fear comes from that. The pain comes from it. What is the other person then? The other person is a wonderful presence which has been safe enough for you to feel unsafe and to get to know of yet one more aspect of the unconscious. The other person is just a placeholder for these triggers which were latent and now they have escaped out of the tent. That's all it is. They are no longer dormant. They are active. They are disruptive. They are destructive. And so that's why they have to be managed. So sadaiva vasana tyagaha means I don't let them have a hold on me. I make them inactive again. They go back to being latent after they have been resolved. So then how do I resolve them? Do I go one by one? You can't. You can just resolve them as and when they occur. Each time you said, okay, now I learn how to I have learned how to manage this particular trigger. I'm no longer activated. Even if I am, I know how to go and take care of this. I have a master's degree in managing my loneliness, feelings of loneliness. And then what? Then another feeling comes up. Okay, now back to school. Back to school with the next feeling. Back to school with a feeling after that. And that's what it is. There are certain there are certain main things, and there are certain other things that are interconnected with them. So shama means cleaning up and resolving these triggers by understanding that you are now the adult and the other person is not the cause of your trigger. They just happen to be there in the wrong place at the wrong time for them, and in the right place at the right time for you. Some question here. How do we explain vasanas related to other incarnations? Well, you know what? In this incarnation itself, there are so many vasanas, countless vasanas. And then You will be so occupied with dealing with things in this life that you don't have to worry about other lives. Right? This life itself, there are so many unresolved things. Why worry about other lives? Doesn't matter where they came from. It doesn't, you don't see, sometimes people like to say they came from a past life because that is also a manifestation of a vasana. Why? Because the feeling is my parents are wonderful. I didn't have a bad childhood. What are you telling me? So it must be from other life. So if your parents are fine now, and then so are you accepting that the parents are terrible in another life? Yeah, because I don't know that other life. This is just another way of that child trying to justify. Oh, but I truly don't remember what the parents did. That is valid. It's okay. But the impressions are there, and that's okay. And as I said, the parents may not have done that. But this is the feeling in the mind. This is how the feeling was internalized, regardless of the parents' intentions or behaviors. And we are not interested in the parents' behavior. We are interested in our own triggers. We are interested in the triggers that happen and how to resolve. And this childhood has plenty of raw material to work with. And then if you say, I want to take care of other childhood also, then next time this class meets, nobody will come because people will say, this is too much. This is really too much. So we'll focus on this life. All right. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. The term vasana, though, is used for all the lives. This life, other life, we don't make that distinction. But when we resolve, we only look at this particular life because we have no information about other lives. So otherwise, it's just a speculation. Okay, yeah. So then we are not meeting next week, and so the next class will be on what, the 18th of uh, April. All right. And then there are some other programs that you are welcome to attend online. So some DC, Washington DC programs are there. You're welcome to come there if you want, or attend online. The details are there on the website. So please look at it, and we're all on Zoom, etc. Thank you. Take care.